Welcome back, and this is our Trek aerial view of the top of Mont Ventoux, the last big target of the stars of the Tour de France today, and we saw a battle royale.
We certainly did. Andy Schleck was imperial, but he didn't get what he wanted on this day. He wanted, first of all, to try and gap Alberto Contador. He wasn't going to get away with that, and he also wanted to try and leapfrog his own brother, Frank Schleck, up into third place overall. But Lance Armstrong was also pretty imperial because he responded to all of the attacks by the Luxembourgers.
Well, let's begin our podiums with the Cadillac performance highlights of how the race went. A breakaway getting clear, always in the shadow of Mont Ventoux today because they went around the mountain before they climbed it. 25 kilometers to go. They were heading for the start town of Bédoin, and that's where it all begins. Astana took control and split the race in the crosswinds.
They certainly did. Whenever it looked dangerous, Team Astana were very much in control. A 16-man leading group, though, had opened up the road to the start of the Mont Ventoux, and as they hit the first kilometers, only 3 men survived.
Yes, they were reduced to Garate, Martin and Reblon, and here they are. A massive crowd, the biggest we've ever seen on Mont Ventoux. They all came out expecting a great showdown, and they got it for sure. As we climbed up towards the empty spaces at the top, it became a race of the 7 Tour riders in the top 7 positions.
Yes, and Lance Armstrong, under the assistance of his teammates, covered every move that Frank Schleck threw at him. Frank Schleck, the Luxembourger who started the day in 6th place overall, was trying to climb up to a podium position, but Armstrong was having nothing of it. Even with the assistance of Andy Schleck, the younger brother from Luxembourg as well, they could do nothing at all to gap the Texan. They could do nothing either to put into difficulty the overall leader, Alberto Contador, who covered every move that was thrown at him on the slopes of this climb.
He never moved off the wheel of Andy Schleck. He never attacked once. He wanted Armstrong to stay in contention with him. While the same applied to Andy Schleck, he wanted to lead his brother Frank away. Bradley Wiggins tucked in nicely. He followed every move until the very end, but he did conserve his final 4th place overall.
Again, Andy Schleck throwing all kinds of attacks at this group, and every time he did, he moved off the front, but he always had a shadow, and his shadow was a yellow one. It was Alberto Contador, who was always in contact. But Andy Schleck had something else in the back of his mind. He really wanted to try and create a situation where his brother Frank could climb up to 3rd place overall, but every tactic they adopted failed.
And every time Frank made a move, the gadfly of the mountain, Lance Armstrong, just followed him. This man must have attacked 5 times at least on the climb and always looked over to check on the whereabouts of brother Frank. Lance Armstrong, he decided to drop to the back and just survey everybody and see what was going on. He just kept a close eye on Wiggins and Frank Schleck, and he knew his 3rd place in Paris tomorrow would be his.
And that was one thing he had in the back of his mind all through the slopes of this Mont Ventoux this afternoon. He got some assistance from his own teammate Andreas Kloden on a number of occasions, but all he had to do was watch one man, the closest man to him, with a threat to the podium, and that was Frank Schleck. Frank Schleck knew that he had to get clear of him and, of course, of Bradley Wiggins, but everybody was on the defensive.
The crowds just got bigger and bigger as we approached the left-hand turn at Chalet Reynard. It was a massive crowd now. A lot of those flags from America as they watched the attack and counter-attack, the bluff and counter-bluff of the 7 riders that could alter the face of this Tour de France. And taking advantage of that situation, Pellizotti decided to go for gold because he knew nobody would chase him. He was too far behind them overall.
Well, he almost got across the gap, but 2 leaders still survived. And still, as we got closer to the summit, Andy Schleck attacked again, this time with his brother right on his wheel. The idea was to try and gap Armstrong, but watch Alberto Contador just a little bit further back. He had Armstrong on his wheel, and slowly he paced the Texan back up to the Schleck brothers.
Meanwhile, it was looking a possibility for the 2 leaders as they went in towards the last kilometre. Tony Martin up there with Juan Manuel Garate. But that high-speed attack by Schleck did dislodge Bradley Wiggins, but he didn't break his spirit. He tried to stay in touch from afar. And this attack surely would have finished anybody off. But no, they all dug deep, all gritted their teeth, and they all followed Andy Schleck. This boy was on fire, but they knew at the top of this hill was the end of the Tour de France for the GC.
With 1.5 kilometers to go, the former Spanish national champion Juan Manuel Garate decided it was time for him to fly the coupe, and he left Tony Martin behind.
He wouldn't be behind forever though, because he would rejoin there as came up to them, and were just there was the kilometre kite as Tony Martin made his return, showing he's got a great depth of encouragement and strength down there. While this man was showing a great defiance, Bradley Wiggins was looking ahead at the rear wheel of Frank Schleck. If he was to finish 24 seconds behind him, then he would indeed lose his 4th place overall. On top of the mountain, one of the greatest victories for Juan Manuel Garate, a former champion of Spain, and a big result for Rabobank, who've had such an unlucky tour. Martin, 2nd place for Columbia 8TC. Then came the battle for 3rd. Armstrong hanging on in there, not conceding any time at all, as a vicious show of defiance came from Andy Schleck and a triumphant salute from Alberto Contador. They may have docked Lance a single second over the line. We'll find out shortly. Frank Schleck came in. Nibali, the clock started on Frank Schleck, and now waiting for the arrival of Bradley Wiggins. He had 24 seconds to get in. He got in 20. So he survives in 4th place overall. A world-class pursuiter, now a world-class Tour de France rider. That's the big winning effort there by Garate. He made the first attack when they saw Mont Ventoux on the lower slopes in Bedouin. He finished it off on top of the mountain. 1st and 2nd in the Tour de France 2009, crossed the road together, or the line rather, on Mont Ventoux. Let's have a look then at the stage results, as that was our Cadillac performance highlights. What a day. Manuel Garate at 3 seconds Tony Martin, then 38 seconds Schleck and Contador. They did dock Armstrong just a little bit of time. It doesn't matter in 5th place, so docked him. He came in 41 seconds down, 3 behind the other 2. Frank came in at 43, Kreuziger at 46. The important thing is that Bradley Wiggins came in at 103. If it had come in at 107, he would have lost his 4th place overall. So, as we look down there, it's a busy old scene. Look at that crowd. Hope they don't fall off the mountain. They're waiting for the presentations, as are we, so we'll take a quick break, and then we will be down there on the podium. Well done today to Jose Manuel Garate. And Lance Armstrong interview coming up as well. I bet he's pretty pleased.